Alright everyone, welcome back to Already Overbooked. Today, we are diving into a military sci-fi that feels like Wanted, Halo, and Star Wars had a wild night together, and the result is Spectre. This is book one of Titans of Atlas series, and it's packed with adrenaline, betrayal, and more than a few broken bones. So let's jump into the setup. Humanity is at war with an alien empire, and both sides uses these super soldiers called Titans. They're powered by a rare gas found only on this planet of Atlas. And we follow Langdon, a weapons engineer who as a kid idolized the Titan super soldiers, but after seeing how cruel and arrogant they can be, that admiration flipped to hatred. Fast forward a few years, Langdon gets captured by the Titans he despises and is forcibly turned into one of them. Now codenamed Spectre, he's stuck in their brutal training program on Apex Station, preparing to fight in a war he never wanted to be a part of, and he now has to decide, will he play by their rules or break them completely? So jumping into the writing style, the writing in Spectre is absolutely built for speed. From the very first chapter, the prose launches forward like a jet engine. It's quick, it's punchy sentences that mirror the chaos of Battlefield. It doesn't linger too long in description. Instead, it gives you just enough details to build the picture in your head and then throws you into the action before you can catch your breath. That pacing makes it feel very cinematic, almost like you're watching cutscenes in your head from a video game rather than going through and reading the book. But it's not just fast paced for sake of adrenaline. The perspective we go through within Langdon's eyes is it's sharp and it's unfiltered. His voice is saturated with sarcasm and cynicism. He's a guy who lost his heroes and has had the myth of Titans stripped away from him, and his narration reflects that bitterness. The way he talks about the world, it's raw and it's rebellious, and it makes the book feel grounded even in the middle of all that sci-fi spectacle. And then you get to the battle scenes. They are a real big highlight of this book. They're vivid, they're chaotic, they're deeply physical. You feel the burn of the gas flooding through the Titan's lungs, the snap of the wings extending from the powered exosuit, and the metallic clang when the blades meet at breakneck speed. There's weight to the movement, like you can actually hear the roar of the engines, and the author never forgets that scale either. It's not one-on-one battles, it's massive. It's sprawling set pieces with alien titans crashing through buildings, drop ships exploding in midair, and soldiers caught in the crossfire. It's choreographed like a blockbuster, but it doesn't lose that grit that makes you really care about who's actually standing when the dust clears. What I appreciate is that the writing balances spectacle with intimacy. Yes, it's got the giant action sequences, but it also slows down just enough to let you sit in Langdon's head, in his frustration, in his doubt, in his stubborn refusal to bow down. And in those moments makes the action hit harder, because you're not just watching an anonymous super soldier tear through enemies, you're watching a reluctant Titan. So let's jump into the themes and tones. What struck me about Spectre is how it doesn't just settle for being a flashy military sci-fi action romp. It digs into some heavy, almost uncomfortable questions about what it means to give yourself over to power and what you lose along the way. At its core, the book is obsessed with the cost of transformation, because becoming a Titan isn't just about superhuman strength, speed, or the glory of fighting for humanity's survival. It's what you have to sacrifice to get there. like family and friends, personal dreams, even the ability to make any kind of choices are all stripped away the moment you submit to the highest order. And Langdon is forced into this. And the question the book keeps hammering on is how much of your humanity can you give up before you're no longer human at all? There's also a running tension between obedience and heroism. The Titans pride themselves on discipline, on never questioning the chain of command, and orders are treated like gospel. Is following orders actually heroic, or is it just obedience dressed up in medals and propaganda? And through Langdon's eyes, you see how brittle that system really is. He knows firsthand some of the so called heroes he grew up idolizing are cruel, they're careless, and they're corrupt. So when he's drafted into the ranks, every step of his training is not just a battle against these aliens outside, but against the suffocating grip of the system that demands he silence his own conscience. And the tone of this book matches that struggle. It's gritty, it's harsh, it's laced with adrenaline. Every training sequence, every battle moment feels like it could break Langdon apart physically and mentally, yet beneath that intensity, there's a steady undercurrent of rebellion. And Langdon refusing to let the Titans grind out that last piece of his humanity, even in the moments where the gas is coursing through his veins and when his body is moving so much faster than his mind could even catch up, there's a inner voice within his head and reminding him to not let them take everything. And that gives the story an edge of hope in the middle of all the brutality. What I really like is that this book balances these tones so carefully. It never shies away from the carnage or the cruelty of war. People die in gruesome ways and sometimes for no reason at all. But it doesn't wallow in hopelessness either. Instead, it plants a flag in the ground. It says survival without compassion isn't worth it. And that gives Langdon's story its heart. It's not just about becoming a better fighter or even the fastest Titan alive. It's about clinging to the parts of himself that make him human in a world that would rather see him as nothing more than a weapon. So let's jump into the pros and cons. And of course, we're going to start with the pros. One of the biggest strengths of Spectre is its action. The fight scenes aren't just written well, they feel alive. You can practically feel the engines as the Titans fly through the air. You feel the blade impact. Everything's choreographed, really like a blockbuster movie sequence, but they never drift into being too polished or too clean. You still have that grit, that carnage, and you always feel like there's a cost with every time your characters go to war. But the action isn't the only amazing thing. I really liked the world building. I felt it was expansive. It was purposeful. Atlas, the planet at the heart of the conflict, is not just a backdrop. It really feels like a lived-in world. You feel the intensity. You feel, hey, this planet has been at war for a very long time, and there's a story behind it. And I really went through and loved that part of the story. Another big avenue of this book is Langdon himself. He's bitter, he's angry, he's sarcastic, and he spends a good chunk of the book resisting the role that's being shoved to him. And that makes him very compelling, makes him very human. And the choices he's going to go through and make isn't always what he wants to do. And you can feel it weighs on him. And that unpredictability keeps the story very, very sharp. Jumping into the cons, I'm going to be honest, Spectre isn't flawless. The relentless focus on action, while it is thrilling and I really enjoyed it, sometimes overshadowed quieter character moments. You'll get glimpses of reflection, but those moments pass quickly because the story is already sprinting towards the next battle. So I found myself wanting more pause, more time to sit with these characters outside the training and the firefights, because those glimpses of humanity are so good when they come. I wanted a little bit more. Another area that I felt was underdeveloped, or at least in this first book, I think there's supposed to be a few more books coming down the line, is the alien side of the conflict. They're fierce, they're dangerous, and they're clearly a massive threat, but they remain more of a looming presence rather than a full fleshed out enemy. Most of the book's attention is on the Titans, highest order, which works well for the story, but I would have liked a closer look at that alien Titans. Who are they? What drives them? And whether they're just monsters or if there's something more with them. So let's jump into my final thought. Spectre doesn't take its foot off the gas. It throws you in a world where survival depends on turning people into weapons. Then it asks you to live with the fallout of that choice. It's not a pretty story, and it's not meant to be, but beneath all the carnage and chaos, there is very human heartbeat. Langdon's refusal to let go of who he is, even at the highest order, is trying to grind him into this faceless titan. That tension between being human and being a weapon is what gives the book its bite. Spectre is a powerhouse debut, and if you are looking for that military sci-fi that blends that blockbuster spectacle with a rebellious character-driven core, this book definitely delivers. And for me, I went through and gave this book an 8 out of 10. I thought it was great. Again, not perfect, but it's wildly entertaining. It's thought-provoking in places, and it's absolutely worth picking up if you're hungry for action-heavy cinematic science fiction. So, as always, I would love to hear what you think. If you have read Spectre, I would love to hear your thoughts. What did you think of the Titans? What do you think of Langdon? Let me know down in the comments. But if you have not read this, let me know if this sounds like something you'd be interested in adding to your TBR. I would love to hear from y'all as well. And don't forget to like, subscribe. You know what to do. Till I see you in the next one, stay overbooked.